We were talking about how prison stocks have been doing well. Well, guess what? Big pharma stocks have not been doing well since Trump got in. And that shouldn't surprise anybody, but that has more to do with
RFK.
RFK. That's a big deal.
I know, I love it.
And so here's what
that's the kind of stuff that gets people dead.
That's true, which is why Nicole Shanahan chose her words very carefully, but we're going to explain why she had to in this clip. So here we go.
The pharmaceutical companies and their top investors have had emergency meetings over the last week. And I've been hearing rumors about it. And, we get our calls as well. And people are like, is this really happening? Is this actually happening? Can you give us some insight as to what Bobby's going to do? And I was like, look, it's not about Pfizer being or pharmaceutical companies being bad, right? They've done some very bad things.
You can stop right there. Big pharma pretty much only does very bad things.
Can I say something? Companies don't do bad things. Companies are just companies. People do really shitty things. Okay, so
companies are not people.
Companies are not people.
Despite what Mitt Romney says.
Exactly. So to blame like a company is silly. It's people like the Sacklers. It's the people that are in charge, and it's the lobbyists. That's who the problem is, and all their pimps at every multi-level marketing scheme in the pharmaceutical process. But yes, it is a problem.
Amen to that.
But the idea of them in and of itself is actually quite positive. Do the research, come up with interesting treatments and drugs and just be honest. And if the vaccine works, that's wonderful. If there are injuries, let's understand and screen those populations in advance and come up with different schedules. Mumps, measles, rubella, it's 3 in 1. If you talk to some of the doctors, when they vaccinate their kids, they actually seek out each of these vaccines separately. Measles vaccine separate from the mumps and rubella, and they'll give their children that single shot, on a slightly different timeline. We have so many things we can do to save this industry and to save these companies. It's not necessarily we want Pfizer to disappear overnight. And we don't want the stock to tank. In fact, we'd love for it to be a successful stock.
Why do we want that?
Why do we want that?
Why do we want Pfizer to be a successful stock?
Yeah, I don't understand.
You were very adamant about how we didn't need vaccine mandates, and we clearly didn't. And now it's almost universally true that the only people who needed to take the Pfizer vaccine, which is apparently the only one that actually was effective, if you even want to call it that.
I did that.
Were people that was one that I used. Are people in vulnerable health categories?
Which wasn't me. I regret doing it. I
do too.
I held out. You and I held out like the longest.
I had to travel. I didn't have a choice.
I know.
It's like,
and I had a concert.
I wanted to, there was no way that I was getting into Newark Airport without that vax card.
I had to either get my vaccine or have to have the instant test. And that was when they had to stick the thing up the nose.
Yeah.
Well, hell if I'm going to let somebody do that. So I got the vaccine.
So when you talk about Pfizer being a successful stock, it's a successful stock because they manipulated the market and made everybody have to go and get the jab. And then they kept repeating it and saying, you got to get a booster and you got to.
And well, you're basing it all on just what happened in 20 with COVID.
That's just one prime example.
Right. But this has been going on forever.
Of course. But
they've been doing this forever.
Can point to.
We pay twice. We pay. Our universal resources go to pay and subsidize things like research and development for those companies. And then they fuck us on the back end and rape us with the prices that they could never get away with charging in other countries.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that fund, not with our tax dollars, but our country funds them. And then we pay again on the back end. And it's such a scam.
And it's such a scam. Yeah. And Sisyphean, we're not telling you not to get the vax.
No.
What we're telling you is that
I wish I didn't, because I was not vulnerable. I ended up and I had COVID before I got vaccinated. I actually had COVID way early on.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the reasons why I wasn't running out to get vaccinated, because I actually had COVID.
So did I.
Right. So, but no, I don't tell everybody should do what works for them. I think if somebody is vulnerable, if they, whatever, people, just everybody, I'm very live and let live. I really am. I don't tell anybody else what to do or not to. I regret doing it because as somebody who is very kind of pure about things that I let be on my person and touch my person and products that I use, it bothers me that I was injected with something that I feel like we're finding out has issues.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
all I'm saying.
So long as you are free, absolutely. That is the simple libertarian way. If you choose,
you're free to get
you
it
have
back.
Every choice.
Pfizer is not free to rape you for that.
Correct. And that is why, especially it'd be one thing, and that's when you knew it was a scam.
Let them provide a product, and let them, honestly, for things that are not necessarily required. Now, that would be if somebody was vulnerable and they got a prescription for it or whatever it is. But let the drug companies charge shit ton of money for that shit like Ozempic and all that crap.
Ozempic.
Let them charge a ton of money for that stuff. I don't care. If people want to pay a fortune of money for that and they're willing to poison themselves for that, that's fine. But anything that is like where you need that and it's not just a choice, then yeah. Nobody should be making money off of that, like a profit.
And that's not to say that Pfizer hasn't done good things or that they wouldn't be a profitable company as a big pharmaceutical industry advancing medicine in this country and around the world. But there is corporate greed, and that is the overwhelming makeup of their business model. That's why the old joke, sponsored by Pfizer, on every major television network in the United States.
Bad.
That's a problem.
The constant pharma ads are just so frustrating. It's bad.
How do you think they become a successful stock? That's how it happens. It's not because they're doing good work.
No.
And granted, I think she's choosing her words very carefully because they understand that they're crossing the Rubicon with the direction he's going in.
My only knowledge of her, and again, it's very limited, is that somehow she paid for that VP slot on his ticket by just being a really high-end donor.
Well, she ended up. My understanding is that she is the one who fronted the $4 million to play the Kennedy ad during the Super Bowl last year.
So that being said, this is someone who runs in oligarchic circles. So if you're in oligarchic circles, that is somehow, some way, how your bread is buttered.
Correct.
So you're only going to go as far as you're able to go without your bread not being buttered. And so that's what she's doing. She's never going to ever speak real truth to power.
One of the main reasons why I didn't take the shot, and I think you didn't take the shot, is because you never jump on board with something as soon as it comes out. You have to see what happens. And there were people
and
that
the truth
were
is,
rushing.
you should see it for a long time after, not just. And that is why
I went almost 10 months. Like, I went a long time. They came out in December, and I got it in August or right around there. All right, so 9 months. But at that point, you had already heard the rumblings that the Moderna vax was not good, that there were issues with it. And that's a good one, Mario. I like that. Nicole Shanahan.
And my other thing was the mandating.
As Chris Garrett says, we funded the research and Pfizer privatized the patent and profits. And that is how you make the stock balloon through the roof.
And that is something that needs to be addressed, is our patent laws in this country.
And of course, if we had single payer, this wouldn't be an issue.
No, that's a separate issue. But I do think our patent laws are so absurd that it's just one more thing. And most people don't really think of it that way when they're wondering why some things are so expensive. You don't necessarily go back that far on the food chain, but.
Not good. Believe me, not good. Totally not good.
But the patent thing is a problem.
We'll finish it out.
That is directly tied with health outcomes. I mean, if that was the case, we wouldn't have a problem here. But that's not the case. That the increase in their stock price over the last 10 years has been directly tied to many injuries that have been swept under the rug, as that has been the case with Merck. And so the correction we're seeing right now is the right one, that they made a mistake. The company has failed in its duty to deliver a safe and effective product. and it's time for them to readjust. And so one of the arguments I've heard, and I think is a very good argument, is that if they focused on treatments, right, effective, safe treatments, and really, push those out and did safety studies and did population studies, because there are sensitive populations to every drug, that they would be able to rebound their stock in a matter of a year or two. And so, this argument that Bobby coming into HHS is going to be disastrous to pharma, I actually think is the wrong argument. It might be the best blessing for the long-term success of these companies if they have the willpower to turn it around and make the right decisions financially for themselves. Because at the end of the day, we have a free market in this country, and we have to utilize those levers to get to what we want, which is a healthier nation and drug companies that are helping people and not harming them.
And I guess we should just rely on everybody's goodwill and the honor system to do that.
They are relying on people to not be healthy. That's how they make money. Why do you think we are one of only 2 nations in the world?
I can't take her seriously. I just looked up. So I knew that there was a story about the ex-husband and what that was. And so where her real money is from, because her money isn't from her.
No, she was married to a hedge funder or something like that.
No, the originator of one of the originators of Google.
Oh, okay. No, well, that explains it. So she's sitting on $100 million or something like that.
Who knows what she got in their settlement? I didn't look at how long they were married.
A lot of that's not documented. No. Texas,
all I know is
Texas
that kind of money is not from just being an attorney.
No, no, of course not. But be it as it may, I personally think that Bobby is already having a profound impact. And he hasn't even been confirmed yet.
I'm concerned for him.
I would be concerned too, because a lot of people are now talking, and I've seen it on Fox News, I've seen it on News Nation. They are talking about the labels on your food and the stuff you put in your body. Granted, you guys are probably not a big fan, but I listen to Tim Pool every once in a while, and he did address this to his 2 million plus audience, and he talks about what he has on a regular basis. We've been to Tim Pool's compound, and I can tell you that from that experience being there, they're very healthy eaters.
Yeah.
They're very, concerned about the things that you put in your body. And this was,
which is how I
ago.
feel, which is why that's my reason for regretting the vaccine, is just not knowing and
feeling like you were backed into a corner.
Yes.
Like you didn't have a choice.
I know, it was really not good for me. I did not like that. And I'm the kind of person, and I know this is not the smart thing to do always, but I'm the kind of person where if you tell me I have to do something, I would rather die than do it, even if I would have done it anyway.
Yeah.
I am that person. I am gonna dig my heels in.